Well, Dad sits through chick flicks all year round, so on Father's Day, treat him to a guy flick.
A guy flick, okay. Andrea Mays is a doctoral candidate at the University of New Mexico's Department of American Studies and has a few suggestions that will keep Dad entertained. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, how did we come to celebrate Father's Day to begin with? Can you give us some history?
Yes, there was a young woman by the name of her Sonora Smart Dodd.
Okay.
Okay, that's her name. And she...
That's a mouthful. That is a mouthful.
Sonora Smart Dodd.
Yeah.
She's from Spokane, Washington.
Uh-huh.
She actually wanted to celebrate her father. It was 1910, and her father was a Civil War veteran. He was also a single father who raised her and her 5 siblings.
Oh, wow.
So with the help of her local pastor and some community organizations, civic organizations, they started Father's Day in Washington, in Spokane. But it wasn't actually turned into a national holiday until 1972 when President Nixon signed it into law.
That's fairly recent. I did not know that.
Yeah.
It seems like it just would have been around forever, Father's Day. You got to celebrate
because
your
they've
father.
certainly been around forever.
Right. Well, in your opinion, are there classic Father's Day films that you would suggest to watch on Father's Day?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think about Father's Day films or any film in 3 different categories.
Okay.
There's the classic, that's the classic for all time.
All right.
And there's the recent classic, and then there's the could-be classic. Right?
Oh, okay.
So for Father's Day films, the 2 films that I believe are classics for all time are To Kill a Mockingbird, starring Gregory Peck.
Of course.
Right? And Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, starring Katharine Hepburn and Sidney Poitier, and of course Spencer Tracy.
I haven't seen
Love
that
Spencer
one.
Tracy.
Yeah.
But maybe I
He's
should.
a total guy's actor.
Total guys guy.
And this is To Kill a Mockingbird. Obviously, I think a lot of people, of course, have seen this
that's
movie. A
an
wonderful
all-time favorite.
All-time, definite classic.
And it's a film, I think, both of those films are films that celebrate the qualities that we're supposed to celebrate about fathers, right? Fatherhood in general, fatherhood in terms of its paternal relationships between fathers and children, and also the father's ability or impact on society at large. Both of those films are films about fatherhood relationships, but they're also fathers who have heroic stature and moral, are moral role models. So
of course,
those are good films.
Okay, so you gave us 3 categories. That's the all-time classic.
That's the classics for all time.
Now, so what's the second one that you
The
had?
second category is recent classics.
Recent classics.
All right.
So what do you
Recent
recommend in that category?
Under 50 years.
Okay.
So recent, the one that I think is really important, also a dramatic film that gave way to a spate of comedies, is Kramer versus Kramer.
I love
which
Kramer versus Kramer.
is a wonderful film about fathers' rights to assume the role of primary caregiver. Stars
course.
Dustin Hoffman, Meryl Streep, great film. But following that in the 80s, right, as a great sort of keynote film about fathers as primary caregivers, we have all of these comedies that come out in the 90s, right? We have Parenthood, starring Steve Martin, which is one of the most hilarious films I've ever seen. And accurate, I think, in terms of how it depicts a commitment to children. The other film that I think is really key and important and funny is Mrs. Doubtfire, which again is about the paternal bond between a father and his children and his willingness and desire and sacrifice to be there with them. And one that I think takes a rather different look at fatherhood from a more contemporary perspective is The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane.
I still have not seen that.
It is hilarious.
Oh, here we go. Here's a look at it.
They are co-parents, queer parents of a child who's about to get married, and he's their son, and he is going to marry a conservative senator's daughter. So they essentially go in drag as a heterosexual couple to support their son's choice. I think that's a really fun.
Oh, that does look funny. And so that's probably, are those the could be classics or?
Those are the recent I think those are the recent
classics.
Yeah.
Okay, could be classics.
Could be classics. You know, as I was looking at contemporary to now films, one of the things I noticed was The two films that I think are best examples of that are very recent. Descendants, starring George Clooney.
Yes, that's a very
which
moving.
was nominated for the Academy
I've
Award.
heard my father called me when he watched it. He was like, that movie is sad, but
it's very sad, but very moving at the same time.
It touched him. Yeah.
And We Bought a Zoo, starring Matt Damon, which is another.
I haven't seen it, but the previews looks like a fantastic movie.
It's a fantastic movie, and again, it's about a family, a father, and his role as the sort of commander in healing. His role is to try to bring this family through a tough time, and it's wonderful. Wonderful, very moving.
Love your suggestions. So now there's so many that you can pick from if you want to watch a movie.
All rentable. You can rent all of those.
Those are all rentable, of course. Well, thank you so much
for
coming on this morning. And you're always so insightful, and we definitely want to have you come back on again.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Such a movie buff.
Yes, thank you.